Very low voice is coming. Breakfast nahi kiya? How was the session of Harish? Amazing. Okay. So I'm also part of the same company. Myself, Deepak Sharma, and I see me and Harish in you. Reason being, we both were classmates. We did our MBA together, and while doing the MBA only, we left our job. We started our startup, and today we are standing in front of you. I'm working as a chief data scientist and co-founder with FarmFetch. It's a US-based company. It's set up in St. Petersburg, Florida. And my role is to build a data science solution for the company. Or in a nutshell, I can say that I generate information and Harish secure that information because he's from the security part and I'm from the data generation part or the information generation part. In terms of experience, total 18 years in the area of IT, which include 12 years into analytics. I did my specialization from ISB Hyderabad in 2014 in data science, and then masters from IIM Lucknow. And I have given a lot of industry sessions to all the top IIMs and IITs. So that's a part of my hobby. Okay. So this is what we would like to start with. So today the topic which I'm going to talk about is data and cloud. And it is something is a very, I would say, contemporary topic. You all must be aware about what is data, what is cloud. I'll not go in the detail of what is cloud and data, but I will be talking more about where the world is heading. Because once you know that where the world is heading, but tomorrow when you pass out from your college, you all will be ready for the world, right? It should not be like what is happening today, because by the time you will come out, that thing may get obsolete. And that's the reason that why this kind of sessions are arranged. Okay, and during this session, please feel free to ask your question at any given point of time. Don't wait till the end, because then there's a kind of disconnect happens, and sometimes we forget the question. So whenever you have a question, please feel free to ask. Okay, shall we start? So what is data? In a simple term, I would say it's a fact or an information. Harish said in the starting that he ran 2 startups and successful exit. That was the data for me to start as a co-founder. Because that is the information which I drive. Because I'm not from a startup background. I was in the job throughout my life. And when I get a co-founder who has run the startups and who has experience, success and failure doesn't matter. At least he has experience more than me. And that information I drive out of it, and that's why we started the company. So that's a power of data, which will help you to take your decisions, and it will help you to understand where your interest lies and are you in the right track or not. Okay, so that's the purpose why we always talk about data, and everywhere, all the companies, they all are talking about data. They say that data is a new oil, data is a new currency, or data is a new fuel, and cloud is an engine. Reason being that today, even money is also converting to data. If you talk about fintech, if you talk about digitalization, everywhere, the numbers are converting into some information or some knowledge that we can drive out of it. So types of data. So a very basic stuff. When we talk about type of data, there are 2 types, quantitative and qualitative. You all must be aware of this, so I will not go in detail of it, just a very high level understanding of it. When I say quantitative, that means I can quantify, I can count, like this number of students sitting here. That's a quantitative. And qualitative means like how many students are looking for a startup, how many companies are looking for people like working in a startup, or how many students would like to go for a job or continue with their studies, post-graduations. So these all are the qualitative, which will categorize the data, which will tell a abstract information out of it. And when I say qualitative, you can have 2 further, nominal and ordinal. Nominal means your class roll number, just a placeholder. I will never say that a person is having roll number 2 is better than person having roll number 3. It's just a placeholder for me to identify that person uniquely. That's a nominal data. When talk about ordinal, means ranking. First rank, second rank, third rank, that is the ordinal data. We have put the data in the form ranks in prioritization, but we cannot quantify that the person who is sitting at rank number 1 is twice good as the person sitting at rank number 2. That we cannot understand out of it. So that's a ordinal data. When I say about qualitative data, this is something like a discrete and continuous. Discrete again, which can be counted. Let's say we have 50 members sitting here, it's a discrete one. But what is continuous? Like your age, You cannot calculate your age. Can you calculate your age? Anybody can tell your age? Can you calculate that? Because every second your age is changing. Every second, right? So we cannot calculate that age, and that's the reason why it's called as a continuous data. It keep on continuously changing, like weight, it keep on changing. Age is keep on like an increasing as and when the time ticks, right? So that's the reason that why it's a continuous, it's keep on continuously increasing or decreasing or following some trend and following some trajectory. Okay. The important part comes here is a DIKW pyramid. Now, what is DIKW pyramid? Anybody here who has seen this pyramid earlier? That will give me a fair understanding like how deep I need to go into it. Anybody here who has seen this pyramid? No, okay, fantastic. So we all on the same page. When I say DIKW, I'm talking about data, I'm talking about information, I'm talking about knowledge, and I'm talking about wisdom. So D for data, I for information, right? And then K for knowledge, and W for wisdom. What exactly we are going to achieve out of this data is a decision power. A lot of companies are talking about data. Why? Because they want you to take decision quicker than their competitor. They want you to understand their customer and try to understand that what my customer need, so that they can take the right decision at right given point of time. And how they will take decisions depending on the this DIKW pyramid I'm talking about. When I say data, data is like anything which is scattered. It could be a conference is happening in here. It's a data which may or may not be having any meaning for you, because you may not be interested for you, or you may be interested for that. So when you connect all the data points, it becomes an information. So a conference is happening on the upcoming technologies in the area of AI and data security and Azure area. So this gives you information out of it. And once you get the information, then you will be able to drive a knowledge. And knowledge means like, is it good for me? What kind of data, what kind of information they don't talk about? That information is something is going to help you to take your decision that whether you should go there or not. And that's why you are sitting here. So in itself, you are applying this DIKW framework every day, whether in the form of your WhatsApp, whether in the form of your class notebooks, or wherever you are listening your YouTube videos and all, you are applying this DIKW framework. And on this DIKW framework, the companies are building their strategies. Why they have put up so many effort in collecting the data so that they can drive information out of it. We have no privilege to speak each and every individual one-to-one. And this is where the data which has been put in the area of e-commerce, in the digitalization part, will help us to connect us with the customers or with the target audience. And once we have that information with us, we can drive our knowledge, because maybe that information that I've derived may not be useful or may be useful, so that I can filter out the information out of it. And then once we have the knowledge, it's an easy for me to take decision, yes or no, right? So that's the information which have to capture. And a lot of problem happens when we have a corrupt data. There's a very famous saying in the area of our AI, garbage in is garbage out. When there is garbage inside the machine, you will never expect a very good product out of it. And sometimes the data which become a very biased in nature, maybe because of the lack of knowledge of the sampling or lack of knowledge of any other mechanism through which we collect data, if that knowledge is not appropriate, we will get a very garbage data, and then God will be the savior for that company. Okay, so garbage in is garbage out, and that means that a lot of efforts, a lot of money, a lot of resource spent on collecting this data. And that's an important part for all of us. Now, why data is a fuel in digital economy? Harish has talked about digitalization, but in the case of digitalization, ultimately is a data which is moving from one source to another source. And why it is a fuel? Reason being, good data beats opinion. In my opinion, I would say that the growth of the company will be 7%. In my opinion, it could be my individual opinion. Maybe I'm not in good mood on that day. Maybe I have a very serious fight with my wife, right? And I'm completely out of my mind on that day. So on the basis of an individual, a company never take a decision. They always try to set up a process. And whenever they try to set up a process, they always look for a generalized mechanism, which means that even if this person is not present tomorrow, we would be in a position to take a decision. And that's why companies not run on people, they run on processes. people will keep on coming and going out. That's not a big issue. But generally what happens, like company forget and they give preferences to people rather than the processes, and then the problem starts. And that's why this data is considered as a fuel. Reason being that it beats the opinion. It will not be depending on the individual, like in whims and fancies or gut feeling that this will work or not work. The data will tell. And our job is not to challenge people who are senior to us. Always remember this thing, because tomorrow when you go to the companies and start working, you might work in the data science field and you will feel that I have my data science knowledge, so I will be the super god here. No, you are not like that. There is no discount, there is no escape from the learning path that the people have taken on the 15, 20 years in that domain. You are supporting their decision with the help of data. Because the genre has changed. The customer has changed. Today, customer don't want to buy like a house, but they want to buy an iPhone, right? They don't want to buy a car. They try to like an offer all and Uber, because the requirements are getting changed. And when the requirement is getting changed, we are helping our decision makers with the help of data that where the world is heading and how we should strategize our requirement, our expectations, so that we should not be obsolete in the market. Data drives customer experience. We all understand that. Analytics, machine learning, and AI. Now, a lot of in time I have seen that people got confused with the machine learning and AI, and they try to use that term as a replacement of each another. Always remember that AI is a process which will help you to take decision, and machine learning is a technique through which you can apply AI. Okay? Always remember this line. AI is a process. For example, when you go from your place to a destination, you use Google Map. It gives you an option. There are 3 routes available. Which route you want to take? That's an AI, because it's giving you an information to take your decision. It's completely on you. You can take decision, or you depend on the software, which means that we go to Spotify, we go to YouTube. It gives a recommendation and keep on running that song. We have given the privilege, we have given the access to the machine to take decision on our behalf. Or sometimes we take decision on our own depending on what information I get. For example, in the case of healthcare, in the case of education. Okay? So data is something like is a fuel here, and the reason why it is fuel, that it will churn out that information from the system or from the framework. Companies view data as a strategic factor rather than as an end product. So today, data is not an end product. It is more of like a strategic factor, because they decide their strategies on it. After COVID, a lot of stuff has changed. The data which was 10 years back, today is completely obsolete, and I cannot take decision on that data, which means there's a shift is happening from big data, and where the world is heading, I'm going to talk about in subsequent slides. Till this, any questions so far? All good? Okay. What is cloud? Cloud, I've just put one slide here. Reason being that today, the whole day, people are going to talk about cloud, so I will not talk about cloud in detail, about their models and all. It is only a way to access your resources via internet. That's it. Okay? And you pay for the use that you are doing on the platform. That's a simple definition of the cloud. If you don't have internet, you cannot apply cloud. You apply internet, access the resource, whichever part of the world you are sitting, and you are working seamlessly. That's a cloud environment which we talk about. And today in all the session, you will take a very deep, detailed level of understanding on the area of cloud. So let's move forward. Various forms of data on the cloud. Now, what are the various forms? The data is resting state. The data which is accessed, data in transit, data at arrival, and backup and recovery. These are the 5 stages on which the data changes the transformations. And at all these stages, you require people like Harish. Because why? If the data is stolen at the rest, when the data is residing on database, that means data is at rest. So we have to secure the data everywhere, because sometimes the data is not our own property. Sometimes it's a customer data. If you're working in the case of healthcare, we are talking about the patient data. And when we talk on patient data, that means we're talking the PIIs, the personal identification information. And that could be very, very sensitive also. And once this data is being collected, a lot of responsibilities also comes with us. We cannot simply go and sell that data. You may get a lot of call that are looking for a loan. Sometime you must have observed that if you have a very good amount of money in your bank account, you start getting the calls of FDs and all, right? So sometimes data may get compromised, but because you all are coming to the industry maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, always remember that your ethics should continue with you. And data governance is equally important as data collection, which means that who gonna access the data, if the person is right person or not to access the data, that is on the honors of you, because the person has trusted you while sharing his data. Accessing is all about like who can access my data, and data in transit means like when I requested something, the data has moved from source to destination, the data is in transit mode. And the data arrival means the data is reached to destination, and then we take a backup and recovery so that something wrong happened, then we still in a position to run our business. We should have a backup and recovery mechanism. So that's a various form of data on the cloud. Now where the world is moving, that is very, very important, because 3 years down the line or 2 years down the line, I don't know where, at which part of stage of your studies you are right now. You might be in the BTech, you might be in the MBA, and by 2025, there's a 70% shift. This is what I'm saying, it's what Gartner saying. 75 or 70% shift in the focus area of the organization from big data to wide and small. Now what is big data? You must have talked about the volume, velocity, variety. You must have heard about this. What is big data, right? But that volume, velocity, variety was applicable when I have a data which is like 10 years, 15 years old. But after COVID, my whole customer has changed. The way of accessing the system has completely changed. What I will do with that big data? That's a garbage for me now. Then the shift starts from your big data to your wide data, which means I've extracted the variety part out of it, and now my focus is more on the variety. I'm focusing on the customer behavior. So now I'm wanted to check their purchase behavior, what kind of product the person is buying, from which region, from which country the person is buying that, and which kind of products this customer is buying. So that is a wide data, which means it is giving me all the varieties of the same kind of a business, which is like sales here. Which channel the person is accessing, social media, mobile app, desktop, whatever the mechanism they have. Okay, they have our mobile app installed or not. So these all are various varieties from which a person is collecting the data. And that's why the shift is now moving to the wider data, which means that I'm more focusing on the variety rather than the volume. Because the time has gone when a company takes 2 years or 3 years to build an AI system. Today they need an AI system within 3 months. Because after 6 months, nobody knows another COVID wave comes up. We cannot afford to have a solution which will be coming 2 years, 3 years down the line, and it become obsolete before it got launched. Okay, so that's a focus where companies like in making, and that's the reason why I put this slide here, so that you all should be very much clear that every variety of the data is important for you, and the shift is happening from big data to wide data. Now, what is small data here? Small data means I'm talking about a particular domain, a particular set. Like for example, the transactions. That is small data for me. A transaction of a, let's say, Chroma store for, let's say, Janakpuri area. Okay, that is small data for me, which will tell me about the customer base, the kind of transaction they are doing, and the Chroma store in the Janakpuri area. So this is what you call the small data, which will completely focus on one particular use case and try to solve that use case. Is that clear? The shift between the big data, wide data, and small data, and where the world is heading. Thanks. Now, we say that cloud is working as an engine. Now, how cloud is working as an engine? Anybody can recognize this like a model here? Like anybody has seen that model anywhere? You have seen. Okay. You have seen. So, what is this model all about? And what term we give it to this model? Okay, no problem. So this is where my role starts. Okay, so this it's an engine, and we have deployed that engine on the cloud. Reason being that when I put a fuel in my car, I need an engine to burn that fuel so that energy can be generated and I can make a best value out of it. That's the purpose of why we look for an engine and why we look for a cloud, because the engine is ready. It just assembling is required. If I need to do a ETL job on the AWS, I might be looking for a glue as a tool. If I'm looking for a data storage, I might be looking for a S3 bucket. So these all are the components of the engine. I just need to assemble it and run it. And that's the reason that why within 3 months, companies are expecting a result to come, because they do not want a time should be spent in building that engine. That engine is available. Only the knowledge is required that which kernel component work at what stage, and if you're aware of that component, then it will be a very easy job for us to assemble that engine and collect the data and start taking value out of it. And this particular model which I'm showing you right now, this is called data fabric. Now what is data fabric? Data fabric is like I've connected all the sources of the data in such a seamless manner that whenever I need one particular type of data, it will be accessible for me. You can simply think of fabric as something like the shirts and the like clothes you have wear. It's a fabric, right? It has connected all the points and it given a shape to that particular stuff. In our case, it's data. If data is not taking a shape, then it's no use for me, right? And this model is all talking about the data fabric here. I'm talking about data lake. I'm talking about here data warehouse, application, and cloud storage. The data is collected there, get churned, and we apply AI model on it. Where, like, when I say AI model, I'm not only talking about the machine learning. I'm talking about the natural language processing. I'm talking about the deep learning. I'm talking about the artificial neural networks. I'm talking about the transfer learning. There are multiple ways through which we can achieve AI. I am talking about robotics also, because ultimately AI is what? The process of taking a decision, and the term which I just talked about, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, these all are the techniques through which we can achieve AI, okay? And the whole techniques are working in the area of this globe, which is, I've shown it here in the center, because all the intelligence is happening here. The data is on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is the results which can be exposed to my customer, which are like reports. I can use the reports, and today the reports are not like it's just a static report. Today the reports are also dynamic. You must have heard about Tableau as a tool, right? You can generate dashboards dynamically, you can do storytellings, and you give access to your customer to play with the report. It's not like whatever the standard quarterly or bi-monthly or monthly reports are no longer, let's say, valid here. Today, every customer need to be empowered. They feel that if I'm collaborating with an IT company, I should feel empowered rather than dependent on it. So the shift is also happening, and today, let me tell you, the customer is also doing their homework. It's not like that. There was a time when whatever the IT company says, customers say yes. Today, customers also do the studies. They can join courses to all the great institutions, and they prepare, because in the business, everybody has a role to play. Okay. Now, this is the engine which will help you to generate the best value out of it. And what we call this engine? We call it a data fabric, I just mentioned. And what is this data fabric? It's a composable, which means you can compose whatever requirement you have, you can make that requirement out of it. It's flexible also, and it is scalable also. Now, what is scalable? Scalable means when the demand comes up, it will help me to meet that demand. And when the demand goes down, I'm still in a position to come to my original stage. So scalable and the elasticity word is missing here. Elasticity means it's a kind of rubber band. I apply a force on it, it stretches, I release my force, it comes back to the original position. And that's the reason that we need a composable, flexible, and the scalable way to maximize the value of my data. Because if I'm not able to maximize the value, then I will not be making justice with my customer and with my business. And this is an upcoming framework which is happening in the world of AI. The whole companies in the area of whether it's an IT or non-IT, they all are moving to data fabric. And by 2025, everywhere you will see that this is going to apply in all the big organizations, and even the small and the medium organizations. It's an emerging design concept that gives a framework to think about how to stack existing tools. It is not saying the new tools, existing tools, okay? And then the resources and the processes, how to bring all this stuff together in a framework so that I can get the best value out of it. This is what the data fabric is. This is having not a fixed architecture. I'm not saying it's a waterfall model. I'm not saying it's an agile methodology, nothing like that. I'm saying that whatever requirement, let me have a flexibility into it, okay? When you join a team as a data fabric, you become a tailor. You take the dimension of the person and you prepare a cloth or a shirt or a trouser for that person. Now, why we do that? As a data scientist, we become a tailor, okay? So we become a tailor. We understand the requirement of our customer, and accordingly we'll design that framework, because earlier what was happening, the whole data was collected centrally at one location, and that was creating a problem of latency. That was creating a problem of replications also. We preparing multiple copies of that data, and once you have that multiple copies, then helping companies to take out that multiple copies, we have to make the data integrity also that all copies are on the same track. Okay, there should not be any change in the versions of the data. So that's a biggest problem, and this is what the data fabric has solved. The key pillars of it, like we have the data catalog, which will connect all the metadata to make a dynamic, like kind of a environment, so that we all can connect the data whenever we require it. And then we have the AI ML algorithm running on top of it, and we set up an orchestration. Now, what is orchestration? Which is something like, have you seen the orchestra in the music? A person who like can give some waves and like in some musicians, so like people they start running, like they have the guitars and they have the drums, and according they follow the orchestra, and together they follow the musician, and they like can prepare a very good sound. So data orchestration means like we set up a pipeline. Pipeline something like same thing about Delhi Metro. It's a pipeline, and we as a human being as a data. So that pipeline is moving the data from, let's say, Tilak Beach to Connaught Place, whenever the requirement comes in. So that's a data pipeline, and we as a data, and the whole orchestration which is happening at the control tower of Delhi Metro is something is going to happening in the company where people will start harnessing the value out of it. Okay, so this is data fabric. I will not go much more detail into it, reason being that it's a very, very high topic, like a heavy topic, and half an hour is not sufficient for it. Benefits, we all understand that it's in efficient, democratization, scalability, integration, control, and agility. So these are the basic benefits. It has multiple ways to apply, and it completely depends on how much knowledge we have to apply this into our day-to-day system. So this is all from my side. Anybody has any question on the topic? Yes.
So how can you point out the future of cloud in India in future? Cloud retail in India.
So his question is future of cloud in India. First of all, do we understand what is cloud? And do we understand how big India is? What kind of businesses we run? The population here. Do we have a privilege to set up a system where I do not know like what will be demand of my product in the future, and can I predict that I might be requiring 100 or 1,000 servers in future? Very difficult for us, for any business. This is where the cloud comes in. And that's the reason that why cloud is playing a very, very important role. Because as I said, it's an engine, and everybody require an engine to take the maximum value of the data. And if I talk about the future of cloud in our Indian ecosystem, everything is moving to cloud these days. Even after this COVID-19, even small industries are planning to move in the cloud. They all are brushing up like in the skills. They all are like in telling their resources to start learning about cloud, because there's a very important point I would like to mention here, whether it's an AWS or Microsoft or let's say GCP. They give you an environment to run your business, but they will never enter into a data trajectory. They will always expect that you have a cloud team which will take care of your data, because that privacy is something all companies are afraid of, that my data may get shared with some other person, and they wanted to bring that misconception out of the mind of the people. And at the same time, they have a so much secure environment that any Tom, Dick, and Harry cannot go and start hacking it. And the kind of services they are offering, they are using that same service for their day-to-day operation. So that's the reason why we have a very good future of the cloud. Okay? Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk about FarmFetch and what you guys are doing in that?
The FarmFetch? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to talk about FarmFetch. So we in the area of FarmFetch, we are selling fresh fruits and vegetables. In US, there's a very big problem of frozen foods. So what they do, they have let's say Walmart, they have Target, they have I would say many other retail stores. They have deep freezers where they keep all the stuff there, and people do not have an opportunity to eat a fresh fruit and vegetables. What we do, we take an order, we extract that stuff from the farms, and within 24 hours, we deliver that product, or the fruits and vegetables, so that the freshness is maintained there, and the taste should not get compromised. So this is what we are doing. Have I said, sorry? No, we are just definitely awesome, because we are a startup. We cannot do all the work on our own. Otherwise, we'll keep on fixing those issues. If we have expert with us, we'll definitely offload that work to the experts so that we can focus on our business. We are not a transportation company, so why should we have our own transportation system? Because transportation has their own challenges supply chain and the wastages and all. So Harish would also like to add something on here because we both are the co-founder of that company. So let's hear from him also.
Yeah. Since the question is for FarmFetch, so yes. So the idea is not having our own cold storage or running our own supply chain. The idea is not having cold storage at all. The idea is that once it is harvested, it should reach within 24 hours on your plate. You understand? I'll talk about data now. 30% of the total produce in US, goes into the trash, and out of that, 47% of that goes into the trash when it is at home. So the consumer is the biggest, waster. Who is wasting the food, right? Why? Because if a fruit or vegetable is harvested, its lifespan, depending on various types of fruits and vegetables, lifespan spans from, 2 weeks to a month. Okay. Now, if something is grown in California, is being shipped to Florida, right? The whole process itself takes at around 1.5 weeks of time. Then it goes to the retail store, it goes to the shelf, and these retail stores optimize in such a way, they know that after 2 days, this produce will go waste, they will sell you. And you put it in your refrigerator, in 2 days, it's gone. And that's why we have the biggest wastage happening at the consumer end. And that's what we are trying to solve. We are actually creating a hyper-local economy wherein the produce will be produced within that hyper-local environment, and it will be directly sent to the customer without actually running through any cold storage. That will increase the freshness, increase the local economy, and will also decrease the carbon footprint, because we are not guzzling a lot of fuel to transport the fruits and vegetables across states or across countries. So that's the core idea. Thank you. I think he has follow-up question. Yes? Yes, we are. You can go and check farmfetch.com. You might not find any fruits and vegetables here, but we are operating in 3370 zip code, 33701 zip code. You can put your position as 33701 and you can check. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I hope that you got some insight today.